Hello and welcome.
That was good. That's right. I just started the show. I forgot. It's been a while since we've done the podcast.
Okay.
Welcome to the show again. We have Blair Packham with us. Thank you so much, Blair, for coming in.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be here.
And we've been kind of starting the conversation, at least the past few months, with people about the pandemic. I know no one wants to talk about it anymore, but for the past couple of years, we've all been sort of locked down, and some of us have been working diligently working on projects and writing new material and kind of owning our skills that way. And what about yourself? Did you find yourself, enjoying the time off, or you kept your head in the game and no, I'm going to keep writing on a regular basis?
That's a tough one. It's a mixed bag for me. It's a tough one because, first of all, I should have had an answer prepared for that because that's the $1 million question, really.
Right.
How did you spend the pandemic?
Right.
I am not a very ambitious person, so the idea of staying at home and everybody else also has to stay at home wasn't too bad.
Right.
It was actually okay by me because I felt like, oh, okay, I have an excuse now.
Sure.
So there was a bit of that. When I say I'm not ambitious, it's not that there aren't things I don't want to do, but I think I've been disheartened by the music business and the way things have gone over the last 20 years. And so I'm skeptical that anybody will be that interested in my music. I shouldn't say anybody. Of course, there will be people who will be interested, but on any kind of significant scale, other than in a live performance way. And my ambitions are for that.
Okay.
So therefore, the pandemic was terrible for that because,
right.
or at least the first part of it was because I couldn't get together with my band. And I had at the time it was a pretty new band. We'd only played a few shows, and then the pandemic hit. But then what we realized in the second summer of the pandemic, in the first summer too, we realized we could play outside in parks, and nobody could stop us.
Right.
And nobody was going to stop us. And nobody would stop to listen as well.
Oh, okay.
Like we weren't doing it to busk, but we were just
Sure.
doing it to get together, and we could be 6 feet apart, and we could be masked up until when we started playing.
Gotcha.
And I could sing sort of facing this way, and they could be over here or whatever.
Right.
And we ended up having a great time doing that, like a really, really great time
awesome.
doing
Okay.
that. And we videoed
Right.
a few of those moments, but really it was for us, and people tried to give us money. And not a lot of people and not
Sure.
a lot of money, but they
Okay.
were like, where's the hat? Where's the, where do we put the money? And we didn't want it because we wanted, at least I didn't want it. The other guys might have wanted it, but I didn't want it because I felt like, no, if we take your money, then we have to do what you want us to do, and I didn't want to do that.
I see.
At one point, a guy who maybe was homeless, but certainly looked like he was sleeping rough, he came by and he walked really quickly, sort of through our playing area. It's a park, but he said, "You guys know any Doobie Brothers?" and honestly, the drummer was. Andy is his name. Great guy, great drummer. He said, "Do we know any Doobie Brothers?" And I said, "Okay, hold on. We're not going to take requests from random people, okay?"
Right.
And he said, "Why not?" And I said, "Well, first, we don't know any Doobie Brothers. But also, why? So the bar manager will hire us again? So we'll get another free drink so that, so we can get rebooked? Oh, well, that's the same as getting hired again. But you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, there's no bar manager. We're in a park. We're playing for us,
That's right.
And I think when that hit him, I think he was sort of overjoyed. But up until then, there were people getting up to leave at one point, and he's like, "We got to make them stay." It's like, why? They're on their way somewhere.
Sure.
There's it's for us. It's
That's
the
right.
moment. It's this. It's us singing and playing together.
Right.
That's why we're here.
That's why
and if
we're
people like it, that's great. So in terms of the pandemic, that was a positive, actually, sort of discovering that. I had no work, no income at all for months at a time, and that was a huge drag and a cause of some stress. Because I write music for film and TV,
That's right.
as well as
That's right, yes.
yeah, but it was gone, and so that was frustrating. But overall, it's been a mixed bag. I think for some people, I think it's deepened some friendships. For me, it definitely has. Yeah, I don't know. I wish there were a quicker answer.
Sure.
But,
that's okay.
But that's the one I got.
The longest answers are the best because then we take up more time on the show. And I do less talking. It's more about you.
Well, good. Okay, there you go.
So I guess you wear many hats then, in addition to songwriting and performing. As you just mentioned, you write for TV, film, and as well as reading your bio. At one time, you were an engineer. Audio engineer. I was
an audio engineer at Comfort Sound Studio, which
Doug
is
McClement.
Doug McClement.
That's right.
Yeah, Doug McClement was my boss and my mentor. He hired me because I had brought in a bunch of projects to his studio as a producer. And really, I just called myself a producer.
Sure.
I was in high school and just finished high school. And I said to the singer-songwriters I knew from high school, hey, I could produce you. And because I had been in a studio and they never had.
Right,
I mean, it wasn't like the environment we live in now where you have...
Sure.
Everybody has recording gear. Not everybody, but
sure.
If you own a Mac, everybody has recording gear.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that. And so the fact that I had been in a studio gave me legitimate experience, even though I didn't know what knobs to twiddle or anything like that. Sure. But anyway, Doug hired me, and I worked there for 5 years full time. And
great.
Recorded all kinds of exciting people. Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Wow, okay, right.
The Psychedelic Furs, B.B. King, Elvis Costello, Teenage Head, many, many times. We had a recording mobile, so in addition to the studio, being in a studio environment, we would roll the gear out into a truck and then go off to a venue somewhere. And great. Martha and the Muffins come to mind for some reason.
Okay, excellent.
We recorded the Paolas.
Oh, wow.
For some reason, my brain is on a CanCon streak. The Spoons.
The Spoons. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Rick
great.
Emmett.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, just goes on and on. So, yeah.
And speaking of Rick Emmett, you guys started the, is it the Humber songwriting workshop? The summer?
Yeah, it was once, the Humber Summer Songwriting Workshop. It's after the first 4 years where Rick and I founded this workshop, we actually moved it off campus.
Right.
Humber stopped its summertime workshops altogether. Okay. So we thought, well, yeah, but we've got a good thing going and it's working. People like it. So we moved it first to Ryerson. Formerly Ryerson.
That's right. What's it called now? Metropolitan Toronto University.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
And we were just renting the facilities. And then we went to the Royal Conservatory where we also rented the facilities. And now, for this year, 18 years now, this is the 18th year, we're at the Story Arts Center of Centennial College, which is about 100 feet from my front door.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's convenient. Yeah. That's great. That's awesome.
I didn't think I was going to get so excited about it, but I am. I'm excited about the fact that I can, just wander down the street, go home for lunch even.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
So how did you kind of get started into developing and doing these workshops?
It was through my work with the Songwriters Association of Canada. I worked with them. I volunteered for them for years, and then after a few years, I volunteered and then became a board member and then was elected to vice president with Rick Emmett. So we were co-vice presidents.
Oh, great.
I didn't really know him as a rock star. He was in that band Triumph, which I wasn't a fan of, which is not to say I didn't like them. I just didn't really know them. And so here's this guy who everybody said was a rock star, but I knew him as Rick, the vice president.
Sure. Right.
And we became friends and we laughed a lot about stuff and he said to me he's going to quit the board, but he has an idea for something that he thinks will be really good and good for the community, and that was the Humber version of the workshop.
Right.
And so we founded that, and then Rick has been involved pretty much ever since. Although in recent years he sort of stepped back a lot in recent years. But we offer a night where our participants can have their songs. Have themselves accompanied by a band.
Oh, great.
We hire a rhythm section, and we had Rick play guitar. So this was at Hughes Room. We would have initially we had for instance, if you were a participant, I would say to you, all right, Mark, it's Mark's turn. Get on up there, Mark. I'd be the MC, and then you'd come up, and you'd turn to the band, and you'd have your guitar, and you'd go, it's in C. And you'd start playing, and they'd wait for a verse, and then the drummer would kick in, and they'd play without charts or anything.
Oh, wow!
And it was this amazing tightrope thing, and you could see how exhilarated the band were because they have to use their ears big time, and the participant might have never played with a band before, and this is a brand new song that they wrote during the week, so now they're playing it with Rick Emmett on lead guitar.
Wow, that's great.
And he's a hell of a guitar player.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, he's a world class virtuoso, really. Now we do charts. Okay. But the charts aren't detailed; they're just chord charts.
Right.
So the band really can play any feel they want.
Okay.
And sometimes it's chaos, and usually it's not. Usually it ends up sounding kind of like a record.
Okay.
So,
but they've never heard the song before, and up until that night.
Never.
Okay. Wow.
Never. No rehearsal. Nothing.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And Rick is not joining us this year on lead guitar. This is our first year back after 2 years of pandemic time doing it online. You were asking about how the pandemic was. For a song studio, it was actually pretty good. We did it online, but it meant that we could have mentors from all over the place.
Right.
And, people could mentor at home.
Sure.
They could come on for 2.5 hours and then they could disappear and they didn't have to schlep anywhere. So we had, last year we had Lyle Lovett as our keynote speaker.
Oh, wow. That's great.
And the year before we had Steve Earle. It was really, really good.
So what's the, I guess, average demographic of participants? Is it a wide range, diverse group of people?
It's a wide range, but it's concentrated in people's 40s and 50s, I would say. But it is a wide range. We have people as young as 14, 15, and then we have people as old as 75. We had one year we had quite a few at both extremes of the age range. We had like 14, 15-year-old, 16-year-old, and they all hung out together. And then we had like 79-year-old, and like we had a woman who was 94 once for several years actually.
Okay.
And she was great. She was really great. But generally, it's focused in the 40 to 50 range.
Gotcha.
And they tend to be avid amateurs.
Okay.
But experienced. They've written a lot.
Right.
They haven't necessarily performed a lot, but some of them have put out CDs. Some of them have toured. Some people have come to us wanting to sort of touch up songs before they go into the studio to record.
Okay.
So they'll workshop their songs during the week. They'll do like all 10 or 12 of the songs,
right.
and tweak them. Because obviously you don't have to take any of the advice you're given. But if you hear from 3 people that this song is too long, or it takes too long to get to the chorus, or despite the fact you want it to be really clear, I'm not getting your meaning, then you have a little work to do.
Sure.
And you can dig your heels in and refuse. I don't listen to other people, and so forth. But I think, well, why
did you take the course?
Yeah. Well, that's an interesting question, because we do have people who will dig in their heels, and if you ask the question, why did you take the course? The true answer, I think, in their case, at least in the ones I'm thinking of, is they kind of hoped they would get discovered. They didn't know any other way of reaching out to a community of songwriters, or they don't know how to get into the music business, so they perceive this as one way. So they go and they take the workshop, and they're kind of hoping somebody will go, "That's genius! I'm going to take you to Clive Davis and make you famous."
Right.
But probably in the meantime, they're going to have to listen to some suggestions.
Of course.
I'm going to take this to Clive Davis if you make the chorus shorter.
That's right.
So I don't know.
So, but I think when most people were starting out, and when you were starting out songwriting, were there any of these songwriting workshops you could bounce your ideas and get feedback from?
No,
they didn't exist.
The schools for recording didn't exist as well. When I worked at Comfort Sound, I remember vividly, Doug McClement had a sign outside, a big sign, like a big hand painted. It was professionally done, but it was, it wasn't neon or anything like that. But out at the front of the building. And it said Comfort Sound Recording Studio, and you didn't often see that. I mean, recording studios tended to be holes in the wall, or places upstairs, or a purpose-built building in not purpose-built, but in an industrial park or something like that. So they'd have a little plate by the door, but there wasn't a big sign.
Right.
What it meant was students who attended the early years of Fanshawe College would actually, at the end of school, springtime, they'd come by and they'd drop off resumes. And I remember vividly, somebody, like, there's an unexpected knock at the door. As the assistant, there's no session going on. Doug and I were rewiring something, and so it was my job to get the door. I go get the door. There's a guy at the door, nice young man, roughly my age. I was like 22 or something. He was probably about the same age, and he said, "Hi, I'm a Fanshawe College graduate, and I wondered if I could drop off my resume." And I said, "Yeah, sure, that's great. We have no job offerings right now, but I'll definitely keep it on file." And he was like, "Oh, that'd be great. Thank you very much. All my contact info's there." And I thank you. And I closed the door and I say to Doug, "Another Fanshawe grad." and then Doug goes, "Those places, you can't teach this stuff. It's you have to absorb it. You have to learn it." the irony is that Doug has ended up teaching for more than 30 years now at the Harris Institute.
Right.
Which is a great and highly respected school.
Absolutely.
And I think the reason he thought that as a young man was he thought, how do you codify what you do, you know? And I had the same experience with songwriting. I like when I wrote, not only did I not take any lessons, I wouldn't have known how to talk about it even. But through the Songwriters Association doing workshops, it was just, they'd be weekend workshops. I realized, oh yeah, I've got to talk about this for 40 minutes or whatever. I've got to fill some space. And then writing articles for Canadian Musician magazine about, how did you come to write this song or that song? It ended up showing me what my process was. And I'm still learning, as I write a song, I realize, oh, that's not like any other song I've ever written before. Oh, or that's like, Plan 22 or whatever, Not that I give them numbers or anything like that, but like some ways are very familiar to me, and other ways are like, wow, I'm surprising myself still, But learning how to talk about it has been a great education for me, and I think it's been useful for other people. Like I feel like the workshop's been successful, and when I teach at Seneca College, I feel like I can convey it, from the basics up to a fairly sophisticated level.
Right.
And after that, if you're more sophisticated than that, I really feel good for you. You don't need me, And I'm not convinced that everybody needs me anyway. I mean, some people are just born songwriters. They've somehow absorbed it and they just do it, and they can't explain it either.
Right. So when you first started, then it was in your teens, like you were 17.
Yeah, I was 17,
okay.
17, yeah.
And did you struggle with first writing songs, or was it something that just came natural?
It came really naturally, but it wasn't. Still, I'm not a prolific writer. I don't write easily. I write a handful of songs every year at this point. Now, at that point, younger person really caught up in the process. I wrote dozens of songs at first, but even then it didn't come easily. It was hard work.
Right.
But the act of putting it together as a song, that actually, I was heavily influenced by the Beatles, but also by John Prine and Steve Goodman. And, if you want a lesson in how to write songs, listen to those people.
Right.
And also lots of other people, the Alice Cooper and The Who, and, like some hard rock acts, as well as in Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and so forth, but also more pop-oriented artists. Right. And so I have a real strong sense of verse and chorus and bridge, those three elements,
right,
and what makes them different and what each requires. And, of course I can color outside the lines sometimes,
sure,
but I tend to get drawn to that kind of thing, that kind of structure, those kind of building blocks.
Right.
Yeah, my first few songs felt super easy, and the first couple were really good, I think, and then the next bunch weren't.
Sure.
But it's the first couple when you and especially when you have not critical friends who are just, it's cool that you just wrote something and you play it for them and they go, wow, that's great. Well, it's very encouraging and makes you want to do more.
Right.
So I did, and then the next few results weren't that good.
Okay.
Definitely. I wrote
Did they tell you?
songs.
Were they honest with you when they?
No.
Okay. They just said it's good.
No,
okay.
one guy was, and I resented him forever.
Right.
And regretted that when he died at a young age, that I didn't get a chance to say, yeah, actually, you were right. That was a crappy song.
Right.
But he was, and his criticism was right on, like bang on. He explained why the song didn't work, which to me is and it wasn't arrogance, I don't think. It was just he had an insight into it. And a lot of writers don't want to ever hear that, of course.
Sure. Because
there's a certain amount of ego that's involved in
course.
writing.
Right.
But also, a certain amount of songwriting is subjective. But I don't think it's totally subjective. It's like, why is this book better than this book? Well, it's not completely subjective. Some books are better than other books.
That's right.
Some songs are better than, but why? Because it's a communication effort.
Mm-hmm.
It's not all. If it was all just like, I don't know, it's whatever you want, man.
Sure.
Then how would we live? Like, how would we decide? Your walls here are, they're upright. Well, I don't know. You don't have to have upright walls, man. Don't give in to society. You can have walls that are on an angle and so forth. And to a point, that's true, but most of us would go insane like that. We like some structure. Humans are drawn to structure, and songs that have a recognizable structure, I think, are often, not always, but are often better communicators than songs that don't.
Right. So what are some of the most common, I guess, mistakes? Let's not call them mistakes, but maybe errors that new songwriters make.
Well, I think they lose they because the joy and the magic of creating something is really intoxicating, and it should be. It is. It's magic. There's no question to me. It's magic. Like, it doesn't all come down to craft at all. But I think because that feeling is so intoxicating and so enjoyable, and because the people around them aren't very critical, because why would they be? They don't want to stop somebody's joy. You know?
Sure.
But I think that the newer songwriters can be self-indulgent, meaning they expect that everyone else is going to get the same joy from the song that they get.
Yes.
And generally people don't.
No.
You know, it's an act of persuasion to a degree. You're trying to persuade people first to pay attention, and next to actually get the message.
Right.
And at its most basic form, and I think new songwriters forget this, you're communicating a thought or a feeling to other human beings. You're trying to make them feel something.
That's right.
And if you write something that's like 11 minutes long, and it's stream of consciousness, and it uses a lot of jargon that the general public isn't familiar with, and there's no discernible structure,
right.
Et cetera,
Sure.
there will be human beings who like that.
Right.
But there'll be plenty who don't.
Who
either don't or just
Well, I've
won't
got
even
some of
listen
those
to it.
songs, I think, in my catalog.
Well, I've tried, I've tried to experiment too. Like, despite
Sure.
the fact that I teach this stuff, it doesn't mean that I'm doggedly,
Sure.
Writing, it must be 8 lines and it must be
That's
this and
right,
it must be
right,
that.
right,
In fact, the human brain likes patterns and likes repetition, but it
Yes.
also likes when patterns and repetition are broken.
That's right.
Right? So it's really up to you to both establish a pattern, but also break it and delight the listener, So, if you have a song that's perfectly crafted and the rhyme scheme is consistent from verse 1 to verse 2 and there's recognizable patterns everywhere, it still might be crappy.
That's right.
Craft doesn't make a great song.
No.
But nor does pure art. If I had to put it on a continuum, and this is let's say intuitive songwriting, and this is purely crafted songs, like intuitive conscious songwriting, let's say. I would say the best songs are somewhere over here. They lean more towards intuition,
Right.
but they have some craft to give them some shape.
Right.
You'd think a songwriting teacher would be all over here, or at least in the middle, but no, I'm pretty sure it's more intuitive. So and that's why not everybody's a songwriter, because not everybody has that intuition.
Right.
And I don't think I think that's the part you can't teach. I can't teach you what's a good idea.
Sure.
And, because that part is subjective. What's a good idea to you
Right.
may be stupid to me, or vice
totally.
versa.
Right.
But the craft part isn't as intuitive. It's more conscious.
Right.
So I don't know. I'm just going on and on.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that goes for anything, whether you're a songwriter or whether you're an entrepreneur, you're trying to start a business. Sometimes that might be a terrible idea. Hot dogs with, something weird on it.
Yeah.
But do you see, or do you think it's helpful, I guess, nowadays, or I guess since we've been writing songs, for the songwriter to also have some sort of basic music theory or knowledge of how music works, harmonic continuity? Or
I think so. Yeah. I wouldn't have said so at the beginning, but that's because I didn't have any.
Right,
and the stuff
sure.
that I've learned over the decades is still pretty minimal.
Right.
And I wish I knew more. And also now, as I mentioned about the recording schools, also music schools are churning out graduates who know a lot. When I taught at Humber College, I taught songwriting.
Right.
And songwriting is this sort of dark art in a way. So I didn't have to know as much theory as my students. And that's a good thing, because I really didn't. I mean, they know way, way more theory.
Sure.
But did any of them write a good song? Yeah, a handful of them. Were those the students who had the most theory under their belts? No, not at all.
Right.
Because writing a good song it's connected to theory, but it's not the same thing.
Right.
You can have all the theory in the world, and it won't, you won't know what to do with it necessarily.
Right.
But it was intimidating with those students, I have to say.
Okay.
Because I didn't, I felt inadequate at times.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was there for 5 years.
They,
well, some of them could play and arrange rings around me, like absolute, like they were virtuosos. Some of the kids, oh my God, and they were accustomed to being the virtuoso in their high school, let's say.
Oh, okay.
We all know you might have been this guy, the person at your school who, oh yeah, there's Mark, he writes songs, yeah, he's special, and then you leave school and you realize, Oh no, there's a whole world of people who write songs. You know,
That's right.
In my school, I was the guy. You know, or
Right,
one of
right,
four
right.
people or whatever.
Sure.
And these were those people. They're
Right.
the men and women in their high school who could play the instrument like in a virtuosic way, and they came to Humber, realized they weren't as special as they thought, which is not a great realization, can be depressing, but they still had all this knowledge, and the songwriting teacher clearly didn't. And I think that in some cases they were eager to show that.
Right.
And it was okay. It's not why I quit, because I was teaching at both Humber and Seneca, and Seneca was more about the singer-songwriter, and
Right.
Humber was more about instrumentalists who were taking songwriting as an elective.
I see.
And I felt like I had to pick between one or the other, because I kept getting scheduled at both places on the same day. So I do a morning class at Seneca and then have to race down to Humber, or vice versa.
Oh, okay.
And I just felt like, I can make it without keeping Humber going, and I can still make my living and so forth. So I'm going to let Humber go.
Okay.
And they were sorry to see me go.
Right.
I'm happy to say, but it was the right decision, I think.
Okay.
I did say to them once, and I think this is interesting. Hopefully you'll find this interesting. I asked the class, how many people here have written songs? And about half the class. Remember, this is an elective, right? So then it's optional.
Right.
So about half the class put up their hand. So I picked the nearest person and I said, so what's your experience writing songs? Did you write the words? Did you write the music? What did you do? And he said, I play drums. And I said, yeah, but when you were writing songs, I played the drums. And I said, okay, so you were in a band? And he said, yeah, I was in a band. We wrote songs together and I played the drums. And I said, so writing songs, generally songs aren't known. Generally, there are exceptions, but they're not known for their drum parts. And he said, yeah, but I was in the band. We shared all the songwriting. I played the drums.
Right.
And and I said, okay, well, let me ask you guys something. Just under the law of the copyright laws, what constitutes the intellectual property in the form of a song? It's the lyric and the melody. Now, in modern times, this is shifting, but this is back in the late 2000s, I guess, the first decade of this millennium, and so it's shifting, although it shouldn't. But it's lyrics and melody is how I would still define a song, and I set out to prove it. And I thought of this in the moment, which is kind of amazing. I was impressed with my own resourcefulness, I guess, because I said, okay, I'm thinking of a song. It's a well-known song. I'm going to act out the drum part, and I want you to tell me what song it is.
Okay.
So I went, boom, 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 like that. Maybe a little slower.
Okay.
Boom, boom, boom. Right? And they're like, somebody said, well, that could be a million songs. And I said, yep. Okay, but I'm thinking of a specific song. Tell me at what point you get it. I'm gonna sing the bass line.
Right.
And I went, boom, 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 boom. And I said, any ideas? And they said, that could be 10,000 songs. I said, oh, good. So we're narrowing it down. That's good. And I said, now, you notice, I was playing both the bass and the drums, rhythm section. Now, I'll skip over the guitar, and I'll just sing a snippet of the melody. And a word. I'll sing a word. Yesterday. Do you know what song that is? And everybody went, it's Yesterday by the Beatles. And I said, yes. How many notes did I sing? And they said, well, technically 2. Yesterday. You did the second one twice.
Sure.
And I said, how many words? 1 word. 1 word, 2 notes.
Right.
You know what song it is.
Right.
It's the words and the melody.
Huh.
And about half of them decided they hated me in that moment.
Right. I'm surprised no one countered that with Night Flight to Venus, Boney
Well,
M.
Of course, there are exceptions.
Sure. Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah. But the reality is, for most people, most human beings, they respond to the vocal, the words, and the melody.
Right.
And that's the copyrightable part.
Right.
Copyrightable is a misnomer, but that's the part that can be placed in copyright, protected by copyright.
Right.
I mean, you can, instrumental music, of course, the melody.
Sure.
It's still the melody, though.
Still a melody,
You know,
that's right.
dun, 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 dun,
Yes, yes.
you know,
Right, yeah.
I can't put that in a song and
No,
say that's
no.
mine.
That's right.
You know, clearly it's not. And then there are the people who, if you say their song isn't that original, they say, well, there's only 12 notes. As if, yeah, but you can put them in a not infinite array, but you can put them in a, you know, you can use, there's so many things you can do to those notes to make them different.
That's right.
Why does yours have to sound like that like that song by Hank Williams?
Right.
You know, can you not change it a little bit more?
Right.
You know, but anyway, so that was, that was my moment where I was pleased with myself.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. I guess the songwriting and creation world is a little bit different and evolving, say, for hip hop music.
Yeah.
Because one of our sons, Cole, he actually doesn't want to be a performer or necessarily a songwriter. He wants to be a producer.
Okay. Yeah.
But producing hip hop music.
Yeah.
Now, to them, that whole term means something different.
Yes, it certainly does. It's
Right.
It's really a post hip hop world we live in now, and it's completely understandable why it would have changed. Like, and I'm not digging my heels in saying that
Sure.
it can't change.
Right.
It has changed, and it's in a way that makes me a little uncomfortable in
Right.
some ways, only because I'm not a beat maker.
Right, of course.
You know, but at the same time, I've had a good run. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
And so for me, that stuff is completely legitimate, and it isn't about words and melody. The beat maker will make a beat, and it might get used by 5, 10, 50 different artists.
Right.
Or it may be exclusive for an artist, but
right.
they're considered, you know, they're a producer, and
That's
they're
right.
considered a writer. In my day, the producer, you know, was out on the floor with the
That's
with
right.
the band, getting the drummer and the bass player to play together, to lock in together, and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's right.
But, you know, it's a different world now, and
Yes.
I understand that. What I'm uncomfortable with in that scenario is when somebody who didn't write anything wants to be included on the writer's credit.
That's right.
It's not the money, because so few songs actually make money in the world, you know, when you consider how many songs are written every day by
yes.
everybody.
Yeah.
But it's the credit. I feel like it demeans us as songwriters to have the limo driver get a piece of the song because he went
Right.
back to this rehearsal space and picked up a guitar that we forgot to bring with us or whatever.
Sure,
You know,
sure.
you give, in lieu of paying them cash, you give them a piece of the writing. Like, you know, if the limo driver wrote something, if he wrote like
yeah.
limo driver,
Sure.
that was the chorus.
Right.
You know, I'm fine with that.
Of course.
But it's just when they're not actually writing, I feel like, well, that makes the rest of us writers cheaper somehow.
Right.
We're actually doing the work.
That's right.
And anyway.
Well, you know, it's like reminds me of like class projects, you know, back in school, you know. You'd have like 5 or 6 people, like
Right.
the bulk of them would do the work. The one guy would have his name attached to the
That's
thing.
right. It's always the way.
That's right.
How
I know.
can that be?
So I guess speaking of that and new sort of people coming into the business, new songwriters, what advice do you give to them? Say I'm a new songwriter and like I want to make a career being a songwriter and I want to make money doing that. What would you tell them?
Well, I would say you have to. And it's not a great answer. It's not a sexy answer. I would say you have to put the idea of making money on the back burner, frankly. I think you have to be great. And you have to remember why you're writing. You have to accept the fact that you are writing to communicate with other human beings. It's not just it's not just self-expression. It's not just for yourself.
Right.
If you want to make money, if you want to actually establish yourself, you do have to write to a degree with the audience in mind. A lot of young songwriters never want to hear that. They feel like that's not pure. But you're just trying to communicate with other humans. You know, that's what it is. It's pretty pure, really. You're trying to make them feel something. I think it's pretty pure. It's not as self-indulgent. But anyway, making money, there's a million ways to make money that's easier than the music business. So if you're choosing this to make money, I think that's bad. But here's the thing. If you do make people feel something, people will pay you.
Yes.
If you make somebody feel something, it's like a movie that makes you feel sad or happy. If it makes enough people feel sad or happy, it makes back its money and makes movie stars, you know.
Right.
And songs are the same thing. If you're making people feel something and it's deep and profound, then they'll want to be a part of your journey. And they'll give you money. They'll come see your shows. They'll buy your merch. They'll stream your songs, you know. And they might even buy your old CDs that are in your garage or in your basement.
Sure.
Which I'm certainly
Well,
hoping.
exactly. I know we got someone in the closet there. So we're coming up to the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
So I have one last question, and then I'll get you to set up the song you're going to play.
Oh, lovely. Thanks.
So what do you think makes a great, strong chorus that is memorable, people want to leave, you know, the venue singing it or turn it up on their stereo system?
I think, I mean, I wish I knew the simple answer for that, because then I'd be writing it right now.
Right.
But I think it needs to be simple-ish, simpler than the verse anyway. And I think it needs to have a part that's relatively easy for people to sing along to, even in their brains, even just in their heads. I think it has to have like a phrase, some words that are, you know, that are meaningful to more people than just those who are hearing the song for the first time.
Right.
You know, so if it's a song about a particular story, it can't be just limited to that story. It has to sort of sum things up in a way.
Okay. Would you say it could be uplifting in that way? If there's a story?
Yeah, I think uplifting is a good choice, because people like to be uplifted, but it also could be heartbreaking. It could be really dark. I tend to want to, within the confines of what I write, I tend to want to, I tend to want to experiment a little bit. If I wrote a bunch of happy songs are hard, but let's say I wrote 3 in a row, then the next one is going to be super dark and ugly. You know,
right.
Now, within the confines of what I do, that doesn't mean I'm suddenly going to be doing something super experimental or whatever, because I just generally don't do that. But it'll be experimental for me. So yeah, so choruses, yeah, I don't know. I actually try and write catchy choruses every time. Like, it's part of, to me, what makes a good song. I want people to want to hear it again.
Absolutely.
But how you do it exactly, other than the ways that I just suggested, I don't know.
It might be one of those things you can't really quantify.
Yeah, it's one of those art things. It's one of the unconscious, intuitive things. I think I would want it to be something I could sing without words, and that I would want to sing, and that I would find myself singing in my head or out loud later at another time, where I'd think, oh, that's cool, you know, whatever it is. Tom Petty got to be the master of that kind of thing, you know, like, I won't back down,
right?
You know, like, hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, I won't back down. Like, period. That's the chorus.
Exactly.
And the big part of it is, hey, baby, you know, hey, baby, you know. And he's not changing anybody's, he's not changing the world with that, but millions of people loved that song, including me. And you know, I think it's a great song. I aspire to write simple like that.
Excellent.
But I don't know.
Well, why don't you tell us about the song you're going to play then?
All right. Well, then I have to decide. Okay, well, it's not a new song.
Okay.
It's a song that I wrote years ago when my marriage was still intact. And I felt at the time that I couldn't sing it live because it's about a marriage breakup. So I felt like, well, this isn't true to me. Why I feel it's important to, like, actors go and they act, and they don't necessarily live they don't murder people and stuff.
Sure.
You know? But for some reason, singer-songwriters, not only do we expect that a song should be autobiographical, but we feel the audience feels that too. And they do, I think. I think post-Beatles, the audience feels that. And I'm not sure what changed, but, you know, post the singer-songwriter era, the original one with Carole King, songs were Joni Mitchell, they were supposed to be confessional and about you and autobiographical. Anyway, I decided that I would start singing this song when my marriage broke up. And because I feel like it came true in a way. And I always make the joke that I'm not going to, now, because of that, I'm not going to finish the song I wrote about getting hit by a streetcar.
Oh, gee. Okay.
Because I don't want that to come true.
No, that's for sure. Well, on that note, we'll switch over to the song now.
Okay.
Funny how she flew all the way to Boston, where she don't know a soul. Funny how faster half of our possessions were bundled up or sold. Funny how the life we thought we'd made crumbled with the signing of a page. We're free of all those vows, should be laughing, but somehow it ain't so funny now. Ain't it strange how she seemed gave back her key. Then again, how she thought she ever knew me is just a mystery. Funny how the life we thought we'd made crumble with the signing of a page. We're free of all those vows, should be laughing, but somehow it ain't so funny now. Funny how I never gave her that much credit, and I was prone to criticize. I loved her so, but I probably only told her like some consolation prize. Funny how the life we thought we'd made crumbled with the signing of a page. We're free of all those vows, should be laughing, but somehow it ain't so funny now. The good times disappeared, dissolved away in tears. Ain't it funny how? Funny how she flew all the way to Boston, where she don't know a soul.
Thank you so much, Blair.
Thank you.
On the show.
Thanks, Mark.
And,
Thank you, Laura.
Do you have any shows coming up you want to plug before we?
Well, we are my band, The Impossible Dream. We're at Sauce on the Danforth every Wednesday night, except tonight. We're playing on Saturday afternoon, Saturday the 18th of June, outside from 4 till 7 p.m. The rest of the time, we're indoors from 7 till 9 at Sauce on Wednesday nights. I love playing Sauce. It's a great venue.
Okay, great. Thank you again.